Test.
Testing.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Testing, yes. I want you all to know that this is Bill's family up here. you want to introduce them?
Yes, this is my son Hayden, my daughter Mia, my wife Brenda, her mother Lena, and my mother Lee. She's visiting for the week, so that's why they're all together.
So that's why, is this working okay? That's why I need to explain to them that usually we have a little bigger audience than this, but they're watching on Zoom. And I guess they can hear on Zoom who all of you are. Okay, well, let's start with Parul here. And I will have her introduce herself and tell what her job is over in the health clinic.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Parul Patel, and I'm working in the health center as a nurse educator.
Okay, and if, yeah, hold it closer.
Mhm.
And if she has a heavy accent, so let me repeat if I can, if you can't hear, can't understand, she knows. Okay. All right, tell a little bit about your beginnings. Where were you from?
So I am from India. I born in India in west part of the India, that is called state called Gujarat. It's like Mahatma Gandhi state. Maybe you heard the name of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
So we are from the same
Mahatma
state.
Gandhi state
Yeah,
is
it's
where
a-
she was born. And
Yeah.
about your family.
And I have two brothers. One elder brother, he's here in the US, is a software engineer. And I have younger brother still in India. He's a lawyer.
And he's what?
Lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, ask me if I can, I'll repeat what you don't get. Tell us why and how you came to the US. How old were you? Tell us a little about that.
I came in the US in March 1999 from marriage. I married to the guy who was here from here. My ex-husband, sorry. He was here.
But
Yeah.
was this a husband that you chose?
Yes, it was an arranged marriage.
And can you tell
Yes.
us what that means? Arranged?
Yeah, so in India, most of the marriages before was like an arranged marriage. So I married like 25 years before. And like my parents' time, even parents choose girl and boy, and they decide that this girl will marry to this boy. They have no choices, say yes or no, that they want to marry or not. And they just decide the childhood. Yes.
So you have a choice of yes or
Yes.
no?
Yes. So at like from my age, they started, okay, you can choose, but still like arranged marriage, they will just introduce boy and girl. They will say, oh, you like it or not. Family will check like a background check and everything. So, and if both parties said yes, then the arranged marriage say, okay.
What if you say no? What happens?
So they just go find another boy or
Oh.
another girl, right? That.
And how old?
So
how old would you be when this happened? When
oh, I was actually 31. For me, it's like kind of a late marriage because in India, the girls marry usually like 21 to 25. If you're later than 25 before, it's like a late marriage. 25, 26, it's like, oh, she's already old. But nowadays, like it's changed little bit. Nowadays, like more advanced. So they're marrying like a 30, 35 years old.
So
still.
anything from 26 on is old.
Yes, but nowadays it's changed now.
Okay.
And like more like they're choosing by themselves, the boy and girl.
Where did you learn English and when?
So I started learning English from the 4th grade.
Get that? Fourth grade.
Yeah, 4th grade, they introduced English as a subject. And I learned ABCD also in the 4th grade.
You learned what?
ABCD, whatever is in the
Oh,
4th grade.
ABCs, ABCs.
Yeah.
And so, and then was your education in English?
Yes, no, in the beginning, it was not all in the English, but when I went to university, it was English, yes.
All right, tell us a little bit about, or a lot about your education. What, you went from, you have a couple of degrees.
Yes, so I did Bachelor of
Hold
Science
the mic close, yeah.
and I have my Bachelor of Science and I did Masters in Mathematics in India.
Masters in mathematics. She has an MA in mathematics. Yeah,
She's a genius.
yeah, yeah. Imagine.
Yes, and I came in US 1999. And in the beginning, actually, my ex-husband and my in-laws told me I supposed to go to school here and major should be like a computer science or something. I said yes, but I did not get enough support and did not work well. When I came to work here in Terraces of Los Gatos in 2005 as a resident assistant.
She came here in 2005
As a resident.
as a resident assistant.
One of the co-worker who brought me here.
So, but what caused you to come here? What tempted you to come here?
In US?
Huh?
Like in the US?
Yeah.
America?
Yes.
Yeah, actually my father had a visit, me and my brother
Okay.
and go
Your
to-
father
yes.
and your brother
My father had a visit, me and my
and
brother
your brother.
can go to US because my father went to school in Birmingham, UK.
Birmingham.
And he wants to go America that time in 1963. And his parents did not allow him to come America.
His parents did not allow him to come to America.
Yeah. And they said, okay, you have to come back home. My dad went back to India and he couldn't go back anywhere. So he said, okay, my children will go to US.
Would you describe your job here? Your nurse educator.
So as a nurse educator, I supervise nursing assistant, that is called CNS. I do orientation for new nurses, new CNS, in services for CNS, and sometimes for the nurses. Also, I help the nurses and the CNS on the floor in the health center. So
Tell us what your earliest job was.
So when I came here, the first job I had in the Target store. Yes.
Did you get that? Her
I
first
worked-
job was in a Target store.
Yeah,
Target.
yeah. I
And-
worked in Target about 6 months.
6 months, and you were a cashier?
Cashier, yes.
She was a cashier at Target for 6 months.
6 months.
And so you were going to school during that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started my English classes in Dianza College when I was working.
And where
Okay.
was that? Where did you go to school?
Dianza College. The
Dianza College?
Community College. Yes.
Okay.
So I did couple of computer classes also there, plus some English classes.
And your favorite subject was
Mathematics.
Mathematics. Imagine a master's in mathematics, puts me to shame. What have been the challenges that you have had to meet here in the US?
So challenges. So I went through the divorce and after that I had to settle myself. I went to school. and find a job and raise my son, the 4 years old. He was 4 years old.
Her son was 4 years old
Yeah. And
when you came here?
no,
No, after,
after my divorce.
yeah.
When we got divorced, he was 4 years old.
okay.
Yeah.
And tell us about your son and you.
So my son is now 23 years old. He's already graduated from UC Riverside last year as
Wait,
he
wait,
has
wait, hold on. You see where?
Riverside,
Riverside, UC.
and he's working right now as a software product.
A software,
He's working in the software.
okay. And I think it's a good question to ask you what you do in your spare time because he's part of it, huh?
Yes. So my son and I usually like to go travel together, like vacation. So we just went to Greece.
Went to Greece
Greece, yeah, we went to cruise.
on a
Yeah.
cruise.
Yeah, I just came back a week before.
Oh, she came back a week ago from a cruise in Greece with her son.
Yes.
She travels with her son.
Yes.
Her son is her best friend, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And last year we went to Switzerland and France.
Went to
To-
see
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Switzerland
Okay, went,
and France.
last year she went to Switzerland and France.
Yes.
Bill, you can see the pictures better than I. Can you point out?
That's her trip to Greece.
Okay, will you? You tell that?
You'll see her photos rotate through again. Those are her most recent photos when she went to Greece. There
And
you go.
do you want to tell who they are or do you know?
You can tell. Who's that, Pearl?
That's me. That's my picture.
Yes, look at.
Oh, that's my wedding picture. How we dress when we get married. That's my son, 1 year old. Yeah, there's Santorini. There's our recent vacation.
Is that it?
So that's my mom, my dad. Here is my older brother, and on the right side here is my younger brother.
So you have two brothers
Two.
and one son.
Mhm. Yeah, that's my elder brother's,
That's
During-
what?
my elder brother's wedding. That's the time we dress up like that.
Okay. Okay, and now have I left out anything that you want to add? No.
Now it's Bill's turn.
Oh, now it's okay. Now we get to hear all about Bill Penrod. And Bill, will you talk about what your job here is?
Yes. Hold on, let me just hit this button, sorry. Is it going? Why isn't it going?
If you have any comments up here in the front row.
Good afternoon. Let me try to get this going. As you can see, there's a slideshow for me as well. My name is Bill Penrod. I am the Health Services Administrator, so I work in the health center upstairs. I've been at the Terraces of Los Gatos for 1 year and 4 months now. And I have the privilege of working with the best team in the entire Bay Area. But I still don't understand why this is not going. Sorry.
Yes, he says has
Ah,
said that
there
to
we
me
go.
a number of times.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the
There we
best
go. Oh, there's
place.
Kendall. She's always saving me. So my role is to make sure that our team has everything they need to be successful, from our CNAs to our medical records, to our nurses, to our fabulous admissions team. Our team is the biggest at TLG. I believe we have 75 team members. So it's a big crew. As you can see, we've broken it up. Bradley's got a program where people can go to different departments and shadow those teams for the day. And Bradley's had to break our department up into 3 separate months. And last month we someone followed the nurses. Prior to that, it was medical records in our administration team. And this month is the CNA team. So it's a really big team, and it's a huge privilege for me to lead that team because, you know, they plug away every day and taking care of patients that come here from Good Sam, El Camino, Stanford, and other hospitals. Mark pulled up some data. We did over 448 Medicare patients in the last year, which is #1 in the entire Bay Area, and definitely at Human Good. So that's kudos to the team to take on that high acuity and to get people through the doors. Our average length of stay is, I believe, is 21 days. So we're only 59 beds, as you know. So to get 448 patients through our doors in 1 year just for Medicare is a big deal. The teams here, they do a great job with that, and just blessed to be part of the team.
What team is here?
We have some of our nurses here. You can stand up. Why don't you stand up? Medical records, MDS, wound specialists. And they all vary in roles, and they've been here a long time.
Can I ask them questions about you?
Absolutely. I'm transparent. That's what I tell the team. You
No,
know, hold
I'm
me
sure
accountable
they-
as well.
I'm sure they have all good words to say. Bill, give us just briefly where you came from and your family and that sort of thing. I mean,
Sure. Well, you can't tell by looking at me or our children, but my wife and I were both born in Vietnam. Our mothers are Vietnamese, as you can see. They were married to Americans. So we were born during the conflict in Vietnam. My dad just passed away last year, but he did 8 tours in Vietnam, which is unheard of. Most soldiers do a tour and then they get out of the service. But I guess my dad was crazy and did 8 tours. So that's quite a lot. And after that, we transitioned to Thailand for 2 years, where he was stationed. So when we lived in Thailand, I spoke 3 languages. I spoke English, Thai, and Vietnamese. I barely speak English now, and that's the only. When we came to the United States, it was a little different. Now everyone wants that culture to continue. When we came, you know, it was a little different atmosphere at that time. That was not a popular war, so we weren't speaking Vietnamese outside of the home, and we didn't even speak it at home. So that's why I've lost that ability. I've tried to speak it. When they speak at home, I try to listen and try to interpret, but Willie's gone with me to restaurants and I've tried to order and they just laugh when I try to speak Vietnamese. So I've lost that ability. We came to the United States and then lived in Virginia for about 7 years, where my dad was stationed there. And then we came to California in 1983. Wow, somewhere in that time frame. So I've been in California. I guess that means the interview's over. So we've been in California quite a long time. My father was stationed at Fort Ord down in Monterey. So that's where I met my wife. We went to the same high school. We're both, we didn't date until after I graduated and she was a senior. But her family was stationed at the same base, and it's now since closed and it's become Cal State Monterey Bay.
so you were born of Vietnamese parents.
Yes. Mothers.
My mother. And, and you married Vietnamese.
Yes, we planned it that way, arranged. We had
Yeah,
it arranged.
yeah.
No,
Arranged marriage.
it was random.
Yeah.
It was random, but it's been a blessing in my life to have someone that shares the same background, culture, dreams, aspirations.
And
all
what a
of that.
mixture, of the different.
It is.
cultures, yeah.
It is. You can't tell, but it's yeah.
What else? What about your education?
Well, we were both the first in our families to go to college and receive a degree. We both went to San Jose State University. But out of high school, we worked first. I worked at Pebble Beach for 9 years before I went back to college.
Doing what?
I worked at the Inn at Spanish Bay. It's on the Pebble Beach property, but it was a newer property at that time. I was a bell captain, so I was in charge of valets and the guys who parked the cars and the guys who took the luggage up. So I was a supervisor, but I started in the dining room as a busser, and then I worked my way up to be a waiter, and I figured out this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something else. And then during my time there, I got to meet a lot of people. A lot of coaches came through there, a lot of administrators in sports. I was
Yeah, tell us about your involvement. with
Absolutely.
sports.
I wanted to get into a career where I was going to absolutely love it. And I played sports in high school. I followed sports, and then I learned about sports administration. So my career path was to be an athletic director at a university. What Bradley does here for the community, the athletic director does for the athletic program at a university. So that was my career path. I interned we picked a school where I would be able to work in athletics as well. So when I was at San Jose State, I actually interned with the athletic department and worked in marketing. And I worked my way up. I became an assistant athletic director within a
That's-
short period of time
At San Jose State.
at
This
San
is
Jose State. Yeah. And my first semester there, they took me, I was doing such a great job. Their reward to me was to allow me to go on a road trip for a football game. So they took me to LSU, which is a big time football program in Louisiana. It's Louisiana State University. They've won multiple national championships. So here I am. I don't know what's going on. I just pack a bag and we're leaving the next day. We get on a bus with all the football players and all the donors. There's food on the bus. There's a theme here. We get to the plane. I didn't even know it was chartered. So when you travel with an athletic program, the flights are chartered for football teams to their destinations. So we leave about, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we arrive at LSU at 2:30 a.m. And we land and they open that door. And the first time you hit that humidity, you're like, what happened? I can't breathe. They open that door and we're getting out on the tarmac. And my first memory is the baggage crew got on the plane, and the first one that came on the plane was a female. And she says, "Where's your coach? I want to meet your coach." That's how I knew I was in football country, when a female wants to meet the head football coach. So we get off the plane, we get on the buses. It's 2:30 in the morning. There's nobody around. We have a police escort, lights going, and they take us to our hotel. So that's my impression as an intern into college athletics, what big time athletics was. And then the next day we did some things. We went to New Orleans and I got to see all that. And then it was close to my birthday. So this gentleman who was the sports information director at the time, I'll never forget, we were in the lobby and all the donors were there, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's Bill Penrod." And everybody starts clapping because he says this. His name is Lawrence Fan. I'll never forget. He's a legend in that field, and he had everybody sing happy birthday to me. So my heart was already tied
Tell us about
to
your,
San Jose State because of that.
yeah, and we can go back to that, but I'm
Yeah.
eager to have you tell about what you do in your spare time with your wife.
I've always had athletic endeavors throughout my life. I always need something to focus on where I can either better myself or to just be good at it. My whole life is around this mantra where I'm not going to do anything and be average at it. So I read, I study, and I do it. So you can see in our photos that we were runners and we ran for about 5 years. It was a parent challenge. They wanted to run the Wharf to Wharf in Santa Cruz, which is a huge race. And we ran it as a unit with all the parents and all the kids. And I'm like, I like this. So then the next step was for us to run a half marathon. So we ran a half marathon. So what was after that? I had to run a marathon. And then
And your wife did this too.
and she didn't run a marathon. She ran a half marathon. So we had family over yesterday and one of our nephews was really impressed. We have these wall hangings in our living room of our medals that we've collected.
Yeah.
So in
And
5
you have collected too? medals?
Yes. So in 5 years, I ran 35 events.
35
events, and Brenda ran more than that. She's got more medals than I do. Every time you finish a race, you get a medal. We didn't run events unless we got a medal. We were medal collecting. So we ran all over the Bay Area. I ran down in San Diego. My goal was to get to Boston. The Boston Marathon is the epitome of running. And people don't understand how difficult it is to get into that race. For my age, to get into Boston, you have to run a 3-hour and 25-minute marathon, 26 miles. So you have to average just under 8-minute miles for 26 miles to get in. So I was working my way towards there. My half marathon time, as I said, I was studying and religiously always in training. I was training 6 days a week to get to the.
What about Brenda here?
Brenda too.
You were in training too?
Yes. Not that
Not
level.
that level,
Right.
okay.
I would get up at 4 a.m. every morning and run my miles before I went to work. So I got my half marathon time when I first started was 2:05. And then by the time I started training, my next marathon was 1:55. And then I got it down to 1:40,
Well,
1:46.
Didn't you say something about doing a 65 mile?
Well, that's cycling. Then after that,
Oh, okay.
we kind of got bored with running. I did. So we started to get into cycling.
And
then
you did too.
yes. And if anybody knows about cycling, you never just get one bike. You tend to upgrade your bike because you're trying to decrease your time, decrease your everything. And it's an expensive sport. So, and then
Why are you laughing?
because she will keep one thing for. Brenda has a different mentality. Every car she's ever had has been at least 10 years. Her first car that she bought out of college was a BMW, 12 years. The car before that was her Mazda, 10 years. She's like that. My mentality is I'm upgrading to get better.
So tell us about, how did you do 65 miles?
That's just persistence. You just keep riding. So we were riding 6-7 days a week because we wanted to be able to do a metric century. It's called a metric century. And then our goal is to ultimately ride 100 miles. And then we're going to do some overnight trips in the future. And then during the pandemic, we started getting our friends into riding. So we had 15 riders once upon a time where we were going down to Pebble Beach to ride or up to Napa. We gravitated to cycling because I'm a social being and
Really?
yeah. And riding a bike and having a conversation was much easier than running and having a conversation. So that's why the cycling has taken off for us, because I love chatting with my friends, catching up with them or with new people. And it just provides that opportunity to
I thought
chat.
you were very shy.
You know what?
Wouldn't you get that impression? You
As a child, I really was
know?
shy. And my daughter recently asked me a question and I didn't realize it until she asked me if I had, what did you think I had? ADHD. And I think I had it as a child, but I still think I have aspects of it, but
Well, I didn't get what it was.
ADHD.
Oh.
Because I
okay.
was always in trouble in grade school. I was always the one chatting in class and I was not a very good student, but I've learned to adapt and just focus and be better.
And he made you be good students too. I'm
Oh, they're
sure.
amazing students. They're much better than I.
Oh.
Brenda was a much better student. She was 4.0 in high school. I won't give you my GPA. But let's just say in college, I flipped that around and I was an outstanding student in college. Yeah.
Okay, I was interested in it took you how many, 4 days to do the 65?
No, it's only a 1 day. Yeah, that's a 1 day riding event. No, that's easy. Yeah.
Doesn't sound easy to
It's
me.
about 4.5 hours to ride 65
And that was
miles.
okay.
Yeah. Give or take some hills. Yeah.
Now, what about you? You do cycling too? And no, you didn't
No.
catch it from him.
No.
No, okay.
They are athletes in their own right. Hayden was a basketball player. Mia is a volleyball player
Oh,
and still is. So she's still in high school. My son's at San Diego State now. Yeah.
and you're in high school where?
Yeah. They both attended Ann Sobrato High School.
I don't know.
It's in Morgan Hill.
Okay,
Yeah. So you'll see photos up there, but so we get to live our dreams through them when they're playing sports, basically. Yeah.
well, so what are these photos you're talking about?
Let's see when I got married, there's our wedding photo. So I don't know if you recognize me. I actually had hair and a mustache, and
Could you play that again?
I can bring it back, but it's not black anymore. It's gray. And this is Hayden playing basketball in high school. That's his graduation. And then that's all of us at San Diego State. This is Mia. This is at one of the volleyball matches, one of her friends, one of her teammates' sisters. This is us riding, various events. This event down to the left is the Primavera in Fremont. We've ridden an event in Morgan Hill, but there's back the wedding photo. This is us in Maui. And this is us recently. We're wearing traditional Vietnamese. It does. So this is us here. So upper left is we got married in Monterey. And we planned our wedding for September. Because if you know Monterey, Half Moon Bay, San Francisco, they all have the same weather pattern, right? In the summer, it's overcast and foggy. So we thought we'd outsmart the weather and planned our wedding for the end of September. Well, guess what? It was an overcast day. So we didn't outsmart anybody. And then down at the bottom, we had our honeymoon in Maui, and we're going back to Maui at the end of July. It's a favorite spot for us. In fact, when we go back to Maui, we rent bikes and we ride around the island.
We have a couple of people here that might want to talk with you about Maui, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And then to the right, in my previous career, I was in philanthropy. So one of my duties was I would put on an event as a friend winner to remind people that there was a foundation on a campus just like this. And we would have different themes. And the last theme we did was multiple world cultures. So it gave an opportunity for us to dress up in our traditional Vietnamese outfits. And they're called what? Ao Yai. So we wore Ao Yai. So it's similar to a dress in Chinese garb. So I wore it, Brenda wore it. Yeah.
Any more photos or don't want to miss it?
Here we have a tradition to do a Christmas postcard. It's our favorite time of year, isn't it? And we get dressed up in either pajamas or an outfit. That's to the left here. And we have two dogs. One is a wire-haired Dachshund. The other one is a Chihuahua. It's here. His name is Kal-El. That is, if you follow comic books, Kal-El is Superman's real name. So that is Superman, Kal-El. And here is Lego. She's the wire-haired Dachshund. We're huge Warriors fans, which goes back to my career in sports. While I was at San Jose State, I did multiple internships because I didn't know which path I wanted to take. So while I was interning at San Jose State, I also interned with the Golden State Warriors. It was a different ownership group at that time. That guy was worthless. They didn't win anything. He didn't want to win. So it's nice to see them win now. But that internship, my first day, I show up, they give us a tour and they give us an orientation. And I remember it vividly. They take us to the locker room. They're like, you're never to go in here. You're never to talk to the players. You're never to do this. And the never to do list was this long. Where at San Jose State, I had access to everything. They gave me access to the locker room, everything I ever want. Oh, I'm sorry. So that's when I knew I didn't want to work in professional sports. And I worked for the team that put on the in-game events, like on halftime, at the timeouts, the cheerleaders and those kind of things. So I worked under Roy Yamaguchi. Does that name ring a bell? His sister is Christy Yamaguchi. Yeah, so I worked under him, and then he ended up transitioning when a lot of the people transitioned to the Phoenix Suns. There was a new ownership and they recruited a lot of, but I worked under him, and I remember going back to him and going, Roy, I can't do the internship anymore. He goes, what are you talking about? You worked so hard to get here. I was the only undergraduate student as an intern with the Golden State Warriors. Everybody else was a master's student at USF. They had a fantastic graduate program there. So everybody there was a grad student except for me. So I felt privileged, and he thought that was extraordinary as well. But I had to make a choice. San Jose State was offering me a full-time position because the person who was running the foundation at that time left, and they wanted someone they could trust to put in that role. And that's how I became a fundraiser, because I was working in marketing at that time. So I started working in philanthropy at San Jose State Athletics, raising funds for the student athletes. And I got to travel with the football team and so on and so forth. So I ended up later transitioning out when my son was born, because I knew the travel schedule was getting heavier and heavier, although I loved it. I loved traveling with the football team and the basketball team. I still miss it. Every time football season comes around, I wish I was on one of those charters with one of those teams going somewhere, especially to the South. They just love their football. And I thought I would end up in a small town as the athletic director at a big university in a small town. So whenever I hear somebody's from Nebraska or from Iowa or from Montana or somewhere in the Midwest, that's where I thought we would end up. But
you can let me interrupt you for a second,
yes.
But you're a health administrator here, and I haven't heard a word about health.
We're getting there. So as I transitioned out from athletics, because I knew the travel was going to be too heavy, I wanted to be home to support my wife and to be around for the kids, because my father worked 2 jobs my entire life. So I rarely saw my father, and I was not going to do that to our family, even though that provided a lot of things that we didn't have. So that left a huge impression on me, and I wanted to be home. So I gave up my collegiate athletic career, and then I worked for the Heart Association, didn't like that. And then I applied for a position that I forgot I applied for at a community in Cupertino, Sunnyview. And I'm like, really? Philanthropy at a senior community?
I still don't hear the word health.
Yeah. So I end up there, they interview me, and they're like, are you sure you want to get into working with seniors? I said, I'll give it a shot. Knowing in the background, I had applied for the position of athletic director at a local JC, local junior college. And turns out they had an inside candidate, so I didn't get that. But that was my backup, was to be an athletic director at a junior college. That way I can stay local and so on. So I ended up working at the senior community, and it changed my life.
I still haven't heard anything about the word health.
Yeah. So working with seniors, I loved it more than working with sports. So working with the executive director there changed my life, and she was transitioning to be a VP in the organization, and she wanted me to be the executive director. So we started that training, but it was too late. So I got my RCFE certification, and then you usually have to get your nursing home administrator's license. So they put me through that program where I was. So I did my administrator in training and decided that I did not want to stay in the organization in that role, and never thought I would get into the clinical role. I transitioned to a for-profit entity where I was the executive director. And that was a mistake, because that's a dog-eat-dog world. So Bradley and I connected. So Bradley is a huge reason why I'm here.
That's what the next question was going to
Yes,
be.
Yes. He reached out to me and said there was I reached out to him, and then he said there was a position open as the
So
administrator.
you were at the same place.
Yes, I was still at the ED at the current position at that time. And it was really stressful. They were pushing sales so hard because it was a brand new building. That building was beautiful. I will always enjoy my time there.
Tell us about Bradley and you.
Well, Bradley and I had served in a leadership program together 5 years prior for Leading Age. So we got to know each other. We would travel to different communities throughout California. So we traveled probably 4 times that year. And then, we stayed in touch through LinkedIn, and I loved everything he was doing at Terraces of Los Gatos. I also knew somebody else at Human Good, and they were trying to recruit me. It just never worked out. The timing for Bradley and I worked out, and I never thought I'd be on the clinical side. I love the clinical side. I've learned so much.
I guess we could ask questions about Bradley and we could ask him questions about you, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I've learned a lot from the team. I only knew, not even surface level about the clinical stuff. So while I was here, they allowed me to study for the 2 tests you have to pass, the state exam and the federal exam. So I studied for those and passed both in 6 months, and then got my license in August, and
here you are.
And here I am. So I guess I did okay. And
I imagine you did.
yeah, I think more so that I have the license than anything else, but
Yeah. I wish we have to cut this a little bit off,
Mm.
but I wish I could get the family to tell us a few things about him.
I'm sure my wife is ready to
And,
share.
Yeah. She's afraid of what would happen afterwards.
Yeah, they're all super shy. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, let's stop it here. And if you have any questions, I don't know how you could have any questions.
Nothing.
And first, right now, does anyone have a question?
No, travel with the sun. Was that Italy or was that Greece?
Greece. That was Greece, Santorini.
I saw Santorini, but I saw Rome. Was that Santorini also? Okay.
No, that one from Athens.
And that was there. Okay, I thought so. I'm Greek, so that's fine. It looked familiar.
I had to stop there for a moment. I thought you were asking me that question. We do. My wife and I don't know if the kids really enjoy it, but we enjoy Maui.
You still go to Maui?
We do. We're going in July, at the end of July to the first week of August.
Somebody graduated from Maui for Winston for years, went over there, and he's still there.
Wow, it's a
They
beautiful
just
place.
came back from Maui, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's the perfect blend of countryside and yet has all the amenities. We're not really big fans of Oahu, sorry. It's just San Francisco and on an island to us. So that's why we go to Maui all the time. Yeah.
Anyone else? And you can't tell us any colorful things about your dad, huh? No. You're afraid to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're fabulous kids. Never been in trouble. They got great group of friends. I had
And it
hard,
looks like they're friends too.
yes, they
Your
are.
friends.
My teenage years were way different than theirs. I'm going to say this in public. My mom and I had conflict quite a bit. So, that's what made me who I am. But teenage years for them, totally different than the experience I had. So I'm just proud to be their dad.
Okay, well then let's break up, and if anybody wants to come up and talk, feel free. And thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I didn't think you wanted to, so.
So how long have you been with Harris's?
16 years.
16. Okay, I know I think he said maybe Bradley did, he was saying.
No, I'm here now 15 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, 15 and half of the health center as a nurse. And before that 1 year, I worked in the assisted living.
And where?
Assisted living in the lodge.
Oh, awesome. 16 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.